On this week's episode of the Best of Johnston County podcast, our guest is Cleveland Fire Chief Chris Ellington. This is the first of two episodes we recorded with him, and in this episode, we talked to him about growing up in Cleveland, how he got involved with the fire department kind of through peer pressure, how he became the chief, how the fire department has changed tremendously over the years from running 250 calls to almost 3,000 calls. We talked to him about how the fire department went from being volunteers to all professionals, the training involved in being a firefighter, and what he loves most about Johnston County. So listen in.
Welcome to another episode of Best of Johnston County, brought to you by Breeden Law Office. Our host, Jonathan Breeden, an experienced family lawyer with a deep connection to the community, is ready to take you on a journey through the area that he has called home for over 20 years. Whether it's a deep dive into the love locals have for the county or unraveling the complexities of family law, Best of Johnston County presents an authentic slice of this unique community.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Best of Johnston County podcast. I'm your host, Jonathan Breeden, and on today's episode, we have the Cleveland Fire Chief, Chris Ellington, and we're going to do a couple of episodes with Chief Ellington. This first one, we're going to talk a little bit about him growing up here in the Cleveland community, his finding his calling into public service and fire protection as when he was in high school, his early career, when he became the chief and he was a volunteer. He was a volunteer chief and he had 3 regular employees to now where he has over 35. And talk a little bit about some of the training that goes in to being a firefighter. It is way, way more than you can imagine. And then check back in a couple of weeks, and we're going to do a second episode with the chief where we're going to talk a little bit about all the community involvement, including Celebrate Cleveland, the Christmas parade, some more into the training that they do. We're recording this in July of 2025. They're having Camp Blaze with the kids. We'll talk a little bit about that and how you can help the fire department moving forward. But before we do that, I would like to ask you to like, follow, and subscribe to this podcast wherever you're seeing it, whether it's on Apple, YouTube, Spotify, TikTok, X, Twitter. Well, Twitter's no longer X, or any of the other social media channels of the Best of Johnston County podcast. The Best of Johnston County podcast comes out every single Monday and has now for over 21 months. So go back and listen to some of the previous episodes. We've had a lot of great guests, including the majority of the county commissioners, now Congressman Brad Knott, local Senator Dem Sims, local realtor Donald O'Meara. We've had Adrian O'Neill, the County Parks and Rec Director. A lot of great people have been on this podcast. So go back and listen. If you love Johnston County as much as I do, this podcast is for you. Welcome, Chris.
Thank you.
Or should I just call you Chief?
You can just call me Chris.
You just call you Chris. I go back and forth. So anyway, for those who don't know, tell the audience who you are and what you do.
My name's Chris Ellington. I'm the fire chief of the Cleveland Fire Department. Born and raised here in Johnston County in the Cleveland community. The Cleveland community, as you know, changed over the years.
A lot since you were a child.
Absolutely. One thing I always tell everybody that's not from here is I grew up near the Cleveland Elementary School. And I played outside as a child underneath a huge oak tree. And everybody would go by and knew your name and would holler out the window, you know, when you're going by. And if 5 cars came by in a day that you didn't know them, that was something. Now, if you can go sit out in that same area and see 5 people you know, that's the whole nother end of the spectrum there. But it's Cleveland has grown. It's been good. It's been a good thing for the community and for the county as a whole.
Yeah, I mean, you go back. I mean, I guess when you grew up in Cleveland, it was, Don Wells and his brother, yep, and you, and I mean, there's a few of y'all still here, but it's not many because there wasn't many.
There's not many Cleveland originals, is what I'll call them. We're kind of fading out a little bit.
Yeah, that's okay. I mean, you think about it, whether people realize it or not, I-40 was not completed until around 1992. And this was the last stretch of I-40 between California and Wilmington, North Carolina to open. And it was that opening of that stretch of 40 right through here, the Create 40, 42, 36 Veteran Parkway, that really, I think, helped start spurring the growth of Johnston County. I mean, I don't know how old you are, but I'm sure you were here. You've lived here your whole life when 40 opened.
I'm 48 years old, and I can remember 40 opening. And I remember the first thing that came to the interchange was a McDonald's. And a gas station.
And the BP.
And we thought that we had gone to another world nearby. Yeah, it was something we didn't have the pleasure of. You either traveled to Garner or you traveled to Smithfield growing up to do anything, grocery shop or anything. So we thought we had struck it big time.
Well, what I remember, my first experiences here was driving to the beach on the new 40 as a freshman at NC State in the fall of 1993. And there was the McDonald's and there was the BP, and the BP had a payphone. And people were listening like a payphone. And so if you needed to make a call or you needed gas or McDonald's, this was the stop. And that was the only thing here. I have distinct memories of that right after the interstate opened. And I guess you had Peddler's Village was still kind of a flea market, not really the building it is now with the businesses.
I tell people about Peddler's Village all the time about how it was a flea market. People just can't fathom that, and how things have grown here.
Right.
This interchange has just exploded.
Oh, it's unbelievable. I mean, people don't realize that Johnston County had 60,000 residents total in 1990, I believe, and now it's like 250, 260, could be 270. I mean, that's a lot of growth. And Raleigh has grown, right? Raleigh in the Triangle was not the Raleigh in the Triangle is when I came to the Triangle for the first time from Lawrence, North Carolina in the fall of 1993 to go to NC State either. So it's changed. It's changed a lot. So when did you decide, what got you to where you thought you might want to be a firefighter?
So somewhere around 1998, something like that, my friends were in the fire department. Of course, growing up in Cleveland, the fire department was the hub, the old school. I went to kindergarten through 8th grade in the old school. So the fire department was right across the road. And that was the hub of Cleveland. Interchange was nothing up here. And my friends, and I knew a lot of people that were on the fire department, the Wellses and some more, and some friends had joined and said, hey, y'all to come up here and hang out and see what's going on. I said, yeah, okay, I'm busy, I'm doing my thing. And once I finally started hanging out and saw what all went on, I was like, maybe I do want to get on. So I got on as a whim just to try it, just kind of peer pressure, if you will.
Right.
Probably one of the greatest things that happened was getting on.
Did you start out as a volunteer?
Started out as a volunteer. Then we were all volunteer. There
Right.
were no paid employees at all. And paid employees came around 2000. And there was 2 paid employees. They were just Monday through Friday employees. And they worked like 7 to 5 every day. They were there just to keep up with some of the paperwork that was coming down the line then. Really, the administrative part of the fire service was really evolving then, trying to keep up with that. And we had to keep up. There was not any farmers. Farmers were going by the wayside here. We once grew tobacco here, now we grow houses in our fields.
Yeah, well, there's no doubt about that. So what training was involved? The training now is way more than the training you got. But when you started, what was the training involved to be a volunteer firefighter?
I was told when I first got on the department, I will never forget it. I said, what kind of training do I need to do? Do I need to go to JCC? What do I need to do? And they told me, said, what you need to learn how to do is put your gear on. When that pager goes off, get on that fire truck. We'll show you what to do. My first fire that I ever went to was a vehicle fire on Commerce Parkway. And I got in the truck. I knew how to put my gear on, but I did not know how to put it on an air pack. And the guy said, do you know what you're doing? I said, I don't have a clue. He said, all right, do what I do. And I just mimicked everything he did, and I put on an air pack. And there was a guy beside me that got on at the same time. And he did everything. And he showed us how to actually clip in our regulator so we could breathe. I didn't, nervous, whatever you want to call it, I didn't pay attention to what the guy was doing beside me. He actually clipped his regulator in and was breathing air all the way to the call. So when we got out, there was a vehicle on fire, and he was out of air.
Oh, no.
So me and the other gentleman that showed us how to do it, we put the fire out. But that was how I learned how to put on an air pack for the first time.
On the way to a call.
On the way to a call.
Well, that's not how it works now.
Absolutely not.
No, not how it works now. So did you ever get any training, or was it just on the job?
So in the beginning, it was just on the job. You just learn as you went. It was get between the veterans, and they're going to show you what to do. And it's not a bad way to learn. We can't do it in today's world, but I was a better fireman for it, I will say that. I finally discovered that I really did need some kind of training and sought that out through JCC and became certified.
So what were you doing back then for a paying job, since this was a volunteer firefighter role?
So I had when I got on the fire department, I had just got hired by Johnston County Schools. And I was working for Johnston County Schools in the facility services division. And I was doing plumbing work. And that's what my father did. And I knew about that field, and I got hired there. And there were some gentlemen that worked there that were volunteers throughout the county. And they told me, they helped me influence me to get on as well. And so I was doing that Monday through Friday, volunteering at the fire station. Then we ran somewhere around 230 calls a year, and we thought we were really doing something.
Right.
We thought that we were very busy. Compared to the almost 3,000 we run today, we were really not even scratching the surface.
So I didn't know that you were a plumber. Okay, so now when does the fire department running EMS paramedic calls start? As when do y'all become the first responders on that? Because when I was a kid, like fire departments didn't run every call. Now fire departments run any call, and most of the calls are not fires. I don't know if people realize that. Most of the calls are not fires at all. Like y'all get excited when you can go actually fight a fire. But when did that start to change, and why?
Probably in the mid-90s that really kicked off. And the need, a lot of the ambulance services or rescue squads, what they used to call them, were volunteers as well. So in the Cleveland community, we either had an ambulance coming from McGee's Crossroads or coming from downtown Clayton, and that was who serviced us. So the need here to have those first responders is what we call them, to get there, get basic life-saving skills started while the ambulance was coming was huge. That was a huge thing. And we started somewhere around the mid-90s.
Okay. So these volunteers not only were trained to fight fires, but they got trained in EMT services.
Correct. And there used to be a certification that was called first responder. It went to medical responder. And it was just a step below EMT.
Right.
Now it has evolved, and probably 90% of your departments in Johnston County are at the EMT level.
Right. And so almost all the people who work for you are at least an EMT, and some are paramedics, I think, right?
Yes. We have, everyone is an EMT, and we do have a couple paramedics on staff. But they practice at EMT level.
Right. It's just amazing to me because, that's a whole nother set of training.
Yes.
And it's not the same training.
EMT is somewhere around, I hate to even give this figure, it's over 300, closer to 400 hours worth of training that someone has to go through.
So, yeah. And so now people that want to be on your fire department, it's how many hours of training?
The fire certification is about 400 hours.
400 hours.
And then you have a medical certification on top of that. A lot of our guys are also technical rescuers.
Okay.
Well, I'm sorry. About 98% of them are technical rescuers, including swift water rescue as well.
Okay.
Have family law questions? Need guidance to navigate legal challenges? The compassionate team at Breeden Law Office is here to help. Visit us at www.breedenfirm.com for practical advice, resources, or to book a consultation. Remember, when life gets messy, you don't have to face it alone.
So how do you get 400 hours of training? Do you pay them to go to that, or they have to come to you as a certified firefighter before you hire them?
So rewinding back some time when pre-COVID, we'll call it pre-COVID.
All right, pre-COVID. All right.
Pre-COVID, we had about 35 volunteer firefighters. And when COVID hit, everybody, the big scare, we sent everybody home and said, look, unless we have a major fire, let the paid staff handle it. Trying to keep them well and trying to keep them at their employers.
Right.
And so after that, I guess it became kind of normal not to come back to the fire station and not to come to that training and get those hours. And now, 2025, we're down to probably about 6 volunteers, if you will. So to get all this training, pre-COVID, we were hosting these classes in our fire station.
Okay.
We have about 11 or 12 certified fire instructors in our department. So we could deliver that training through JCC. And that was how we trained a lot of people. A lot of those volunteers did get trained and get certified, and some of those are now employed by us. So that's probably been our best avenue lately. We have been training our junior firefighters, and they're getting training through the school system with the high school program or going to JCC. That's been a very successful program, getting them educated and coming in. And like I tell them, I said, most of you have been here since you were 14. When you turn 18 and graduate from high school, if this is the field you want to get into, you've had a 4-year job application or 4-year interview. And, what better reward than to bring them into the department where they've served for 4 years.
Right. Oh, that's awesome. And they have the fire academy at West Johnston High School, I know.
It's
or
at
at least they did.
Clayton High School.
Okay. Clayton.
And Triple S.
Triple S. All right.
Yep.
It was at West Johnston, I think.
No, it's always been at Clayton.
Oh, it's been at
Clayton
Clayton.
and,
Okay.
and Triple S.
Okay. All right. Well, cool. Yeah. So if you have a student out there who's interested, it acts, I think, as a magnet program. You can go there and start getting the training. So do I have to have 400 hours before I start running calls, or is it still like I get a few hours and then I get on the truck and I follow you?
We can get you basic certifications, your hazmat, stuff like that. There's a requirement that you've got to have before you go on a call. And then we can put you on the truck and you can go and hands-on experience. I've always said this. I'm a certified fire instructor, but I can teach you more in the back of that fire truck than I can in the classroom.
Right. No,
I revert back to my training on the first call, putting on air pack going down the road.
Right.
So I've done that as the chief, and during trainings, just put them in the truck and put them in a scenario-based thing, and just teach them that way.
Right. So if anybody's interested or listening to this, call you, stop by the fire department.
Absolutely.
But you can help them get the training. Is there any cost for this training?
There is. If you're not affiliated with the fire station, there is a cost associated with that. I would urge everyone now, recruitment and retention of volunteers is a thing that is just booming across the nation, just not in Johnston County, but across the nation. Retention of volunteers. Can you imagine a volunteer coming to Cleveland and participating in, we're running 3,000 calls a year, trying to work a 40-hour week job, come in, get your training, participate in calls, and then get up the next morning and go back to your employer. I've always said that, it's not fair to the employer because we're occupying more of their time than what they're giving their employer.
Well, yeah. I mean, if you're going to run, that many calls now, it's kind of crazy. When I guess you became the chief sometime around 2005, right?
In 2005.
Right. So you started in 98, learning how to put your air mask on your first call. And by 2005, you were the chief. Yep. That's a pretty rapid increase in rank and stuff.
Maybe I would say I was in the right place at the right time. Cleveland was growing. Cleveland as a fire department was growing leaps and bounds. We were busting at the seams, and we just needed we needed some, I was just really say fresh ideas, but we needed some involvement. The guys that were leading the department then, nothing wrong with how they were doing it, but they had been there for 20 or 25 years already. They wanted to retire. They were tired.
Right.
And they'd come up in the days of 50 calls a year, and they'd worked all the way up to 230 or 35, maybe 300 calls, and they were just inundated. They were running businesses, doing things, and had families, and it was time for us to step up as the younger generation and lead that.
Well, that's great. Here you are at 28 years old, 7 years into firefighting. At that point, you were still working for the school system, I think. Yep. And now you're going to be the chief at 28 with a full-time job with the school system facility services. When did you sleep?
Well, and I had a 2-year-old.
And you had a 2-year-old.
So
you probably don't sleep for 2-year-old. I remember those.
Yeah, there wasn't much sleep with 2-year-old, but and that's kind of the breaking point. I did it as a volunteer for a couple of years, and I'll never forget it at one board meeting. I told the board, I said, look, you need a fire chief. You're looking at building a second fire station, hiring more employees. At that point, we had 3 full-time employees, and we also had about 8 part-time employees that worked a rotating shift. I said, it's not fair for me to supervise the employees at the school system and have to worry about Cleveland Fire Department as well. I said, if it's not me that becomes the full-time chief, that is fine. I'll be glad to make that transition easy. I said, but you need this position in Cleveland. And I was blessed. I'm not saying I was lucky. I was blessed enough to come and do it full-time.
Right. So that was like 2007?
That was 2007.
2007.
Yep.
So you left the school system and you became the full-time chief for Cleveland.
Yep. I left the school system after 11 years.
Okay.
To come to Cleveland.
Right. And you're, at that point, you become chief at 28 years old, if I'm doing the math in my head here.
28 years
That's
old.
a pretty young chief.
It was the youngest at the time in the county.
I've never met a 28-year-old fire chief.
And, looking back, I was like, man, me looking back at 48 years old, looking back at me at 28, I'm like, what were you doing? What was the department thinking? It worked out, and it was a good thing. it was what Cleveland needed to get to the next level. Not saying I did that by myself. I had a lot of good support, a lot of good people around me to help me get there.
I got you. So y'all provide the training, and the firefighters, I think you told me, now work 48 hours on, 2 days on, 4 days off.
Correct.
And it's that way 365 days a year?
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay.
The only thing that may vary there is if they have to work Christmas Day and Christmas Eve.
Okay.
We do have something built in there so they can't spend time with their families.
Okay. And so I guess they do get to sleep at the fire station.
They do. Part of the old stigma is, the firemen are sitting around all the time. Well, a fire chief told me one time, and he's retired now, he told me, he said, you don't get paid for what you do, you get paid for what you might have to do. And there's some truth to that. But I would say that Cleveland's very busy. Our employees are very busy. They do get to sleep at the department, and they have downtime.
So now we have 3 stations.
Mm-hmm.
There was 1, now there's 3. The third one just opened a few months ago at Cornwallis and 42 or 36 or Veterans Parkway or whatever they want to call it. How many people are working at each station at a time?
And it varies by station.
Okay.
So station 1, that's where all the admin staff is at as well.
Okay.
We have myself, an assistant chief, a training captain. So when you have this 35 employees plus, you have to have somebody to deliver training.
Absolutely.
An administrator. And then you have 3 part-timers a day, and they work Monday through Friday, 9 to 6. And then you have 3 full-time employees that are working the 48 on, 96 off. At Station 2, there's just 3 firefighters, 48, 96. Station 3 is a little different. We have 2 trucks there that we staff. One of those is staffed with 2 people, and that is our rescue truck. That deals with your vehicle extrications, your technical rescues, and things like that. And then there's 3 firefighters that are on an engine there as well.
Okay. So, goodness gracious. So, 3 firefighters in the administrative staff at Station 1.
Mm-hmm.
You said there's
some part-timers.
Station 2 has
3.
And then Station 3 has 5.
5 a day.
Okay. All right. And you have 35 full-time firefighters now.
Correct. Mm-hmm.
And then you have your admin staff. Yeah. You don't count as one of those 35, right?
No.
Okay. All right. And I know you work all the time.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you hardly ever sleep. So does the fire chief get overtime? Like you were out all last night. You worked all day today. No overtime for the fire chief?
The admin and staff does not receive overtime.
You don't receive overtime.
We go out and just answer the calls and deal with emergencies.
I got you. All right. Well, why should somebody get into firefighting today? It's not what it was, and it's a lot more training and a lot more involved than it used to be. Why should somebody become a firefighter now?
I think, and I say this, I've coined this phrase too, that firefighters are wired different than most people. I tell my wife this all the time, and she does not understand it. It takes a special person to be a firefighter, really and truly. It's not for everybody. A lot of people don't want to see what we have to see. But if you get into it, I think it's contagious. I've seen that through our junior firefighter program. They get in, they go to his first couple calls where we can get them to, or they go to their first trainings and they get involved a little bit. And it's just contagious. They can't get enough of it at that point. So if you enjoy helping the community or helping your fellow man, it's a rewarding, I'd say it's a rewarding career.
I'm sure it is. I'm sure it is. And a tremendous rush to be able to go out and help and fix the situation and think on your feet and all of those skills can help you in other phases of your life too. So the last question we'll ask you on this version, we're going to do another episode with him, so check back in a couple of weeks for that. But what do you love most about Johnston County?
It's probably small town feel still. You can go from the hustle and bustle of Cleveland all the way down to the most rural part of the world you want to go to. And you can do that in about a 20-minute drive. And the people that are from Johnston County are still the people from Johnston County.
They're the best people.
Absolutely.
No doubt. Well, we'd like to thank Cleveland Fire Chief Chris Ellington for being our guest on this episode of the Best of Johnston County podcast. Check back in a couple of weeks. We have another episode where we're going to talk to him a little bit more about his career in firefighting and all the community service that the firefighters do, volunteering their time in this community, including Celebrate Cleveland and the Cleveland Christmas Parade and their camps for kids. So if you want to hear him talk about that, check back in a couple of weeks. Like we said earlier, please like, follow, subscribe to this podcast wherever you see it, whether it be on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, TikTok, X, our Instagram. Also, tag us in your Instagram stories, Best of Johnston County. That'll help spread the word about this podcast. And if you'd also give us a 5-star review down below, it would help our visibility. Until next time, I'm your host, Jonathan Breeden.
That's the end of today's episode of Best of Johnston County, a show brought to you by the trusted team at Breeden Law Office. We thank you for joining us today, and we look forward to sharing more interesting facets of this community next week. Every story, every viewpoint adds another thread to the rich tapestry of Johnston County. If the legal aspects highlighted raise some questions, help is just around the corner at www.breedenfirm.com.